Hi, this is Sam Orgill with this episode of the Live and Working Abroad show. This week, we're looking at something that's a bit different. We're going to a bit more of a deep dive into. I like the idea of living in low tax Cyprus, but I don't want to spend all my time there. I want to be anywhere but Cyprus. Now, I can understand that point of view. Having had the Cyprus office for many years, it's got great attractions, Mediterranean beaches, mountains, forests, a relaxed atmosphere. But sometimes you need to be somewhere else, near family, near friends, near business, or just uh, spreading yourself around the world. If you want to be a digital nomad, that as a tax, from a tax perspective, you actually still have to be tax resident somewhere. And if you're not tax resident in another country, technically you've got tax to pay on your worldwide income in the country in which you are, whether that's Colombia, Italy, Mexico, Bali, Indonesia. Doesn't matter. You have a tax liability on your worldwide income. By default, it's your country of nationality of birth, of citizenship. And so if you want to be that nomad, if you want to be moving around the world, or if you want to spend time with family in the Americas or Australia or Asia or Africa or Europe, and move around those different places, that makes taxes somewhat different. Now, if you're British and you go to spend 6 months in Spain and 3 months with family in Australia, you still pay worldwide tax in the UK. In Cyprus, it's not the same. There's big opportunities to be a Cyprus tax resident and not spend that long here. Now, normally, when you're tax resident in a country, you have to be in that country for more than 6 months a year. Okay, so we understand that rule. You get a residency permit, get a permanent home in that country, and you stay in the country as your base for more than 6 months in a year, then you can enjoy all the tax benefits for that. I'm not covering the tax benefits here in Cyprus, but I'll cover them a bit later in this episode. But effectively, you can pay zero tax, or certainly below 5% tax as a resident in Cyprus. What if you want to spend less time? What if you want to be a nomad? Well, there's a number of different ways that you can work in Cyprus with fewer days on the calendar or with more flexibility. In Cyprus, you've got a number of options to spend less than 60 days or 90 days in Cyprus and still be a Cyprus tax resident. Now, the key to all this is, first of all, is you have to get your residency permit and then have a permanent home in that. So Cyprus needs to be your place of business. It needs to be where the money is being generated. And there's one main way of doing that, that you as an individual live in the country. The second way is that you have a company, a Cyprus company that can have a registered office in the country. So that's the two essential ways. Once you've got that, you can have a 60-day residence. So some British people are restricted. You can't necessarily come and get a work permit to work in the EU and in a Cyprus company because you're not an EU citizen. But if you come over and you create your own company, you're a director of that company, you can work for that company, get your social insurance, and have your 60-day residency. That means you have to spend 60 days in Cyprus a year, but the rest of the year you can be traveling around. So you spend 90 days in Cyprus, 60, 90 days in Cyprus, Spain, Florida, UK, Australia, wherever you like. There are some catches, there are some rules. The main one is that you obviously can't spend more than 183 days in another country because then you become automatically tax resident in that country. The other catch is that you can't spend more days in your home country than you do in Cyprus. So if you're on a Cyprus 60-day residency, you have to spend, you can't spend more than 60 days in the UK at the same time. So it's not a substitute for the UK. but it does support flexible lifestyles and moving around. So that it's a real opportunity for that. To do that, you have to pay a bit of social insurance, but you only have to do your executive director. You don't need to pay yourself the majority of income, because in Cyprus you've got, if you've got access to pension funds, you get pay tax at 5% on the pensions. If you've got access to dividends from your personal service company or the company you control, dividends is taxed at 0%. If you've got a loan funding your businesses, or is another source of income, interest is charged at 0% tax as well for expats and non-doms. So you can enjoy very low level of tax and be a nomad in terms of just spending 60 to 90 days a year in Cyprus and the rest of the time around the world. Now, conversely, you might want to be based in Cyprus as a tax resident, but the UK citizen can't necessarily work in a Cyprus job. So what we can do then is we can create a work. Either you've got an employment in another country, or you can create your own personal service company and work for that. So if you've got a contract somewhere with another company, that contract to make you self-employed, whether it's with another company or your own company, will give you the right to become resident tax resident in Cyprus, either all the time or for part of the time. With the 90-day rule, if you're working abroad where you're a Cyprus tax resident and the money doesn't come into a Cyprus bank account, income tax is not charged in Cyprus. It's only charged on a remittance basis. So the non-dom rules, which have been abolished in the UK, still exist in Cyprus for non-doms where their earnings are not remitted into Cyprus, and you can pay zero income tax. You may still have the GESI tax, the health tax, the flat rate tax, 2.65%, but that'll be the tax that you pay. Again, using personal service companies, you get income at 0% for dividends. So 60, 90 days both works, and as long as you maintain a lifetime and a permanent residence during the day, during the year in the country, you can live and work indefinitely with a minimum amount of days in country, because the summer's too hot, or the stormy wet seasons are too cold, or you want to be somewhere else with family or friends or business at different times of the year. It's the ultimate destination for being flexible to how you want to be living and working abroad, but not stuck in Cyprus, not stuck in one place. For more information and guidance, you can contact us at projectpartnership.com and help you and guide you on how to do that and get that working for you. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next time.